Should have won that game.
All right.
You have to think about what you did for 2 minutes.
Yeah. All right, y'all ready to get rolling?
So what are we doing? The moon landing or the flat Earth?
Did you watch those videos I
Yes.
sent you?
Jeremy, you just made me kind of wonder about you sometimes. I'm like, I hope you're not serious about these. My goodness.
You just keep me in constant prayer.
Yeah.
And we'll say that. No, we're doing the Beatitudes.
Yeah, I know.
The Beatitudes today. All right, guys, welcome back to the Areopagus. We got our normal crew here today.
Normal?
Our
Semi-normal.
normal viewing crew.
I think he was talking about that Abbey,
Abby, normal.
where they got the brain in that movie.
So I know that after last week when we did the intro, I know that Ron, he said he wants to be here for when we get to chapter 6, when divorce, or at the end of chapter 5. He wants to be here and on the day of divorce. Just he gave a little background into it, and he wants to be a part of that episode.
Sure.
So I know we have that coming up. I don't know if he'll make an appearance in between now and then. If he does, great. If he don't, we'll see him then. But so we are officially going to start our Sermon on the Mount series. I broke it down into 10 sections, and so each week we will progress through those. Today we are going to start at the beginning at chapter 5. We will start in verse 2, and we are going to cover the Beatitudes. And I got a question for y'all, my more scholarly, elite people.
Better phone a friend.
That was primarily at these two.
Okay.
That was primarily at these
I
two,
don't
Shane.
know about that.
Had
Had to bring my big Bible this morning, not this afternoon. Right?
Oh, well, good. So my primary question, when you look at the way these are wrote, this is the way he starts out the largest teaching he's done yet. Why do you think he chose? Is it 9 or 10 blessings?
9.
9. How come you think he chose to start with what we refer to as the Beatitudes? Blessed are those who are poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger. Blessed are the merciful. Why do y'all think that's how he chose to start the sermon?
And that's the baseline of all his teachings. Whoever wants to be first will be last. He's always basically telling his followers to humble themselves and to think of others first, and that's what all 9 of those references, doing for others before you do for yourself.
Right, or your attitude towards
Well, yeah.
others.
Yeah.
Right. I think I was going to let Eddie speak, and then I was going to talk.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. I don't know if I've got anything to say yet.
I think it had a lot to do with him teaching against the culture that he was in. I mean, a lot of his teachings were counter to what was the prevailing, philosophy of what, how you were supposed to treat people, right? So he was also trying to put up counters to the Jewish traditions and things too. So, but yeah, I would agree. It has, to me, it has a lot, especially the first 9 here. It has a lot to do with your attitude. So the be attitude, I always, be attitude, right?
Right.
So that attitude that you ought to have towards other people, right? Or the attitude that you ought to have towards God, like. When he says hunger and thirst, he's not talking about being hungry or being thirsty.
Right.
In the physical sense, he's talking about hunger and thirst in the spiritual sense, that you ought to hunger for those things spiritual, right? So, and you're going to be blessed if you hunger for those things and thirst for those things. So,
Okay.
And I think too that Jesus is aiming at Jewish society as a whole,
right,
but he's also speaking to the Pharisees.
right. That's
And-
what I was trying to get at, Eddie. Yeah.
Speaking to the Pharisees,
Right.
they had rules for them, and then there were rules for others.
everybody else.
And Jesus made these statements in front of
Everybody.
everybody, and there's the Pharisees on the side sometimes listening, and they're going, "What are we, chopped liver?" Kind of thing.
Yes.
And he's speaking to the crowd, but he's speaking about them, and he's tearing them up in a sense. But I think it has to do with what's going to be new in Christ. And he's actually, even if you look at it a certain way, I guess, he's even talking about what the law says and what the law that people are supposed to be following. And he's talking about it's your heart. It's not having a heart of stone, but having a heart of flesh. It's
Right.
that circumcised heart that is that pleases God.
Got that jazz music going, huh?
We're getting uptown, man.
I don't know how to turn it off.
I'm kind of enjoying it too, and I'm gonna be honest. And that saxophone in there and trumpet.
I hate all technology.
Now Jeremy's
Sorry
got
about
to spend
that.
the rest of the day
Yeah.
trying to see if he can
Yeah.
get that edited out so we
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
copyright infringe and
Yeah.
That's
get a
gonna
bill in the mail.
I'm
That's
not
going
that worried
to,
about it.
make the highlight reel, I think, at the
Yeah.
end of the year.
Sorry.
Season highlights.
Okay, so you and so you think it was more directed at the Pharisees, or could have been directed at the Pharisees?
I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that Jesus was confronted by them, and he confronted them so much and aimed so much at them that instead of trying to really change that Pharisaical thing, he made them aware. I know it, and this is what you're really doing. And then he's telling the crowd, this is what you're doing. Follow my example rather than these guys. And because then he went to the cross, and everything was all new.
Right.
And it was all new when his advent came in, as he fulfilled the law. So yes, I think it was aimed at both of them. But Jesus was a smart guy, and he made his point. And there had to be people walking away from that going, he's right. That's the way those guys act. There's got to be something different. And it was Jesus Christ himself.
Well, think about the first beatitude.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Okay, so who was it that had the keys to heaven? Right, it was the rich, it was the popular, it was the ones that could follow the rules. Right. So he's using a word there, poor. Right.
Mm-hmm.
poor people didn't get anything in those days. You got taken advantage of if you were poor. Right?
Right.
You were nothing. You were nobody. I mean, do you think one of the Sanhedrin, would care? They would walk past somebody with a plate out in their hand and pshaw them, as they were walking past them. You're not getting into heaven. No way. Look at you. Look at your plight. Right.
Well, it
So
also,
so there again, I mean, he's being counter to the culture that there was at the time. Now, the religious leaders in Jerusalem at the time were primarily Pharisee, right? There were some Sadducees that were on the Sanhedrin, but primarily it was the Pharisees that had control of the Sanhedrin. They were essentially the control of the religiosity of what was going on in Jerusalem. So,
And there was a self-sufficiency idea in there too, I think.
right,
We've got the power, we've got this, we're close to God, we're this, and you're blessed are the poor in spirit. Those that understand that they're the opposite of self-sufficiency
self-righteousness.
when it comes to
right.
fulfilling the law.
Right.
We can't do it ourselves. We are poor in spirit. And Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit.
Right.
They
Theirs
can see,
is the kingdom of
they
heaven.
can see God.
Right.
They can see that. Yeah.
Right. So there again, I think that you have a lot going on here that's counter to. Now, when we get deeper into the Sermon on the Mount, like Jesus says, well, if you lust for another woman, you've created adultery.
Right.
You hate somebody else, you've created murder.
Right.
Right. So he was saying, yes, there's laws out there about this stuff, but really when you did this, you were just as bad as if you took a sword and ran somebody through with it, right? So I think here he's laying that groundwork. You think about somebody mourning, they had a ritual.
Yeah, I mean,
there was a big whoop-de-doo if, you were in mourning.
yeah,
To
where
Ashes and
rip your clothes and not bathe and, you run around and look like you were miserable.
right, yeah, and that one to me, I like it, but at the same time, for me, I feel like that one is harder for me to understand. And I say that because of the way I had to train my mind and train my brain and train my heart that during certain actions and things I've done, I can't feel anything. I have a job to do, and feelings interrupt that process.
Right.
And it sucks to not understand that and to want to mourn and can't.
Yeah.
And like you said, these people had a 7-day ritual, and when they lost someone, and I like them in this, and because it is Jesus telling them that you will find comfort in your mourning.
Right. Right. And that's there again. That
And
was counter to, I have to put on a production. I have to act. I have to act a certain way. Is
Right.
what you had to do.
Yeah, I mean it's
Right. It wasn't whether or not you actually were comforted or you actually believed what was going on. You had to do these steps to mourn.
well. Didn't they like have people who would come in and mourn
Oh
if
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and-
paid mourners.
Paid mourners, yeah.
Whalers.
Wailers.
I'd be like, nope.
I'm
You
not
got to
paying
go.
you
Yeah,
to
and we're
make a
not talking
lot of
about the
noise.
people that speared fish and big fish in the ocean.
No, I'm talking about women in there hooping and hollering and
Well,
"Ah!"
right,
no,
exactly.
Professional
you
mourners.
got to go.
Right.
You
But,
got
but
to
there
go.
again, I mean, there was, and Jesus is saying, no, you don't need to do that. You just need to mourn, and you will be comforted. You don't have to go through all this rigmarole.
I mean, we saw that this morning, and when Tim was preaching,
On Lazarus. No.
yeah, on Lazarus,
Mhm.
John 11 verse 35 is when I believe we get to see the true humanity of Jesus. We get to see he is fully man
Right.
as well as fully God. Because Jesus wept. He mourned for the loss of his friend, the one he loved, even though he knew
He
what
was-
was about to happen.
Right. Right.
He still had mourning.
Right.
What did you find?
Well, I'm doing things the old-fashioned way,
What's that?
looking them up.
The glossary in the back.
That's
Well-
cheating, dude.
Well,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
that's all right. I'll cheat. Just okay. I'm over here in Psalm 51,
Uh-huh.
and
Where Matthew? Sorry.
well, it's okay. I didn't
Where
hear.
Matthew?
Oh, well, I couldn't hear you, so it was okay. Right over there. Well, it's just what Jesus is talking about, and he said, blessed are those that mourn, and you can also link that, I think, to not just being sorry, but linking that to a step in the direction of repentance. If you're mourning over sin, especially, not just okay, Scott, you kicked the bucket, we're going to mourn.
Right.
Okay, and I understand that, and having it to emanate from your heart, and all those things. That is correct in that usage, as far as I think. But I think he's also talking about here this attitude of what's in my spirit. What does my heart really say, and how is that, versus, the guy praying on the corner, the Pharisee praying on the corner, saying, God, I'm glad I'm not like that guy.
Right.
He probably would have been pointing at, let's say, TR. Or
Well,
something.
well, you can point at me. It's okay.
Yeah. He said, I'm glad I'm not like that guy. That satisfied him, and he feels good about himself now. But those that mourn, I think it's also looking at sin and the attitude of the heart. And then David over here says, well, the whole Psalm 51 is a good thing. But it says, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. And we know that lambs and bulls couldn't take away the sin. We know those things, and eventually all those going through the altar and the altar of the regeneration, the washing, and the laver of washing and regeneration, all those things eventually they couldn't do it, and Jesus knew that, but he came to be that altar. He came to be that labor of regeneration, making us new, and being the light of the world, and the presence of the showbread, and he came to be all those things. So again, to me, it's that attitude of the heart, and I think that's where he's aiming overall. And I'm back in Matthew, so
I've got a little bit different take on it,
Okay.
on the mourning part. And I want to preface it before I tell this part of the story that thank God I've got my daughter, never lost a child, have no concept of what that's like. Don't ever want to know what that's like.
No.
But I know someone that has. And to this day, it's been 11 years. Might as well have been last year. Might as well have been last month.
Yeah.
You know, just not recouping from it. And, you know, it makes me think of the story of David. You know, the whole time his child's sick, he's praying,
Fasting,
crying, fasting,
yeah,
wailing, you know, just in it. The minute they tell him your
You
child's
do.
gone, he's up, cleans himself up, eats, and it's like, okay, well, there's nothing else to be done. The will of God has been done.
Right.
Moving on. Now, you know, some people might look at that and go, oh my gosh, that's so cold and heartless. But to me, that's what Jesus was saying. You know, you're going to mourn, but I'm here to make you better. And it's all going to be better in the end because it's all over in the blink of an eye, and you're going to be with me as long as you have the belief. And, you know, Jeremy brought up that part about Jesus wept. I've always kind of had a different take on that one too. It was, I always wondered whether he was really sorrowful for Lazarus or whether it was more that, like Tim pointed out, you know, that Mary and Martha had faith, but yet they're still questioning Jesus. So, like he tells his apostles, you know, I mean, I beat that drum all the time that I think there was times where he's just like, when is it gonna sink in? Let me tell you, just tell me when it clicks for you, okay? And to me, it always kind of rang that, you know, it was one of those things that, you know, he told them numerous times, you know, believe in me and you'll never taste death. And, you know, that I get it. That's a hard one to go, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to worry about anything. You know, who cares what happens? Who cares what happens on the way home? You know, I get hit by a semi pulling out of church. Oh, well, you know, I'll be with Jesus that much faster. You know, the human side of you is not going to let that be real. But I think in a sense, in a very, very broad term, that's what he's kind of saying is, you know, mourn, but, you know, find comfort in me.
It's two sides of a coin.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I have a friend, I have two friends that have actually both lost children. And the difference between them is and how they have dealt with it has been night and day.
Mm-hmm.
One is like your friend,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other is very much the opposite. So I do think it's how you handle it, how you respond to God and His prompting. And I don't ever want to know that. I've lost both my parents. I've lost a sister to cancer. I've lost cousins that were more like brothers to me. And all that's left in my family is my brother and me. So I never want to experience, but I've not ever lost a child, and I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But and people find it very hard to approach these mutual friends and try to minister and comfort, because it's like you have to lose a friend as admission to this club that they're in.
Right, exactly.
Lost children.
Yeah. You don't understand unless.
So
At least you have.
I
Yeah.
don't want to pay
you
the
know,
price. In that regard.
You know, looking at that and thinking of that, I might be talking about the same person, Kurt.
No,
Okay.
no.
So when I've talked to him since their experience, and when I've talked with his wife, I'm always asking, how are you doing? Knowing the answer to that question, I still ask it. I feel like a fool when it leaves my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when I'm talking to them, all I can do is provide comfort because I don't understand.
Right.
And
But you're not asked to have an answer. I
right,
don't think I'm asked to have an answer with either one of these two people
I mean,
in my life. I think I'm there if I can be a source of comfort. And I've actually gently with one of them said, what a opportunity to witness for Christ and to be able to share your story, provide comfort to others, trying to make the connection. I'm trying to provide comfort in the way that I can, because I can't do much.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've
And in a
had
situation like that, where it's somebody you know,
Mm-hmm.
somebody you've seen at church, their children were at church, you know, so you can pretty confidently give them comfort with Scripture. But with others, you know, you don't know their current status, and it's kind of like, boy, I mean, you better be sure before you go putting that out of your mouth, you know.
I mean, I've had to lie to parents as I'm actively trying to save their child.
I can't imagine what that's like.
No.
I mean, I mean, you have a child in the back of that box, and you know that they won't make it to the hospital, and you go to get out to drive there or get something, and they're in your face screaming, crying, what's going on, and you look at them, and all you can say truthfully is we're doing everything we can, knowing what's about to happen in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Well,
a parent should never have to bury their child.
Yeah.
And I stand by that. I know it happens. It's going to happen, but I don't, that would be a different kind of mourning, I think.
Yep.
But
I don't know how. I can't even begin to think those things.
no.
So.
All right, so we've kind of went kind of low there.
Yep.
Let's
Well,
pick
how about this? Because I believe this is one place in the Bible that we have a misprint. We have a mistake. Because I believe verse 5 ought to read, "Blessed are the mesquite, for they shall inherit the earth." So I believe it's mesquite that's going to inherit the earth, not meat.
Mesquite. Oh,
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So that
they'll inherit Texas, Louisiana.
So
That's
that's
it.
the here, right?
I
So
tell you
it's the
what,
mesquite that's going to inherit the earth.
them things when we lived in Keller for that almost year, them things up there were twice the size as the ones we have here. And with all that wind up there, they could still get through the wind and get to you.
Yeah.
So,
And in southern Louisiana, they look like turkeys. So they've carried off small children before.
I seen them.
Yeah. They actually have a season there. Hunting season.
But
So the next one is in verse 5 is, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." This one to me was always, I want to say, looked at wrong on my part
okay,
for years, because I've always inverted the word meek with weak.
right.
Um,
And meekness has nothing to do with weakness.
Yes, and so like I said, it was looked at more on my part wrongly.
Yeah, because everybody thinks that the modern day dictionary definition of meek is what it means, and it's not. In the Bible, meek means strength under control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just
Right.
like they say about that guy over there with the military tattoos, the little 136-pound dude, that's quiet, sitting in the corner, never talks, never stirs up anything, doesn't joke and everything. Everybody like, don't go poking that bear. It
No.
won't end well.
No, I mean it's so. So Shane, I like that description because it because you're right. It's when I think of meek now, I think of someone like who you described, or John Lovell, or Tim Kennedy, or Jocko, or those SF guys who have
Special forces.
Oh, okay.
everything at their disposal in their hands,
Mm-hmm.
and they have full control over that part of them.
Yeah, there's 5 characteristics
that
that
to
they
me
say are
is meek.
biblical. It's strength under control, gentleness and humility, trust in God, obedience and self-control, and teachability are the 5 key points of meek.
Right, and there again, I think there again, Jesus was poking at culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because there again, it wasn't. It was the rich and powerful. It was the boisterous,
Mm-hmm.
right? No.
And
There again, later on, we hear, I shout when I throw my money, and I have a bunch of change when I throw my money in the little hoop thing, so it'll make a lot of racket, right? So I can show that I'm powerful and rich and big, right? So there again, it's a, I hate to. Well, I'm not going to use that analogy, but I think Jesus was being counter to what there again. You don't have to do this to get into heaven. You don't have to act like these fools to get into heaven. You can be meek and humble, and have control and composure, and not out there cussing and there again. You also had a lot of people that were stirring up. I mean, purposefully stirring up the Romans. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They were poking the bear. They were poking the Romans. So I think, there again, Jesus was going, there's a different way that we need to be doing this. And, going out there and cutting Romans' throats just because we can ain't the way to do it.
Right.
So it isn't going to be the powerful, it isn't going to be kings and military, that beat heaven down. It's going to be people that are humble and
But
meek.
the Hebrews thought it was.
Right.
Not Jeff,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right, which is too why I think they missed the forest from the trees when Christ came, because they were expecting this military power, and they got this meek man
Right.
who led the way.
Well, now there again, when he needed to be, I mean, he called them a pit of vipers to their face.
Yeah. Him and John both.
Bowed up.
Right. I mean, he would bow up to him. I mean, he beat people with a corded, with a knotted rope in the temple. When he needed to be tough, he got serious.
We always hear the first part of that verse. 'Cause that's what's quoted from Psalm 37. I'm back to the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Psalm 37, 11. But the meek shall inherit the land, and you don't hear the rest of it. Here's the rest of it. And delight themselves in abundant peace. Just like, that's what I thought about when you said there's this small guy sitting over in the corner, tatted up, but he's a monster inside, but he's got that control. He's at peace.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, and that's not the only peace that's available, but he's at peace within himself and about himself. So I had to remind myself of that. All right, lead on.
All right. So, verse 6, blessed are those who hunger and who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. The first thing I think of for this one is the woman at the well. That is right where my mind goes, because Jesus broke every cultural rule in less than 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them.
Right.
Broke them. And just took the time to talk to this woman just until that light bulb inside her eyes clicked.
Right.
And she dropped everything
Mm-hmm.
and ran to her town. She had that hunger, she had that thirst, as you said. There's a certain point, I believe, as a Christian, that you desire Scripture. You hunger for it. You want to read it. You want to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'll say this, I know for some of us stubborn and pig-headed ones, it takes about 15 years. I'm pointing to myself.
Oh, okay.
I'm pointing to myself.
Just making sure.
It takes 15 years for that hunger to kick in.
Right.
But
Oh.
I think of her and the fact that she found what she was looking for to the point that the whole town believed her.
Right. Right.
This woman who
They
had
knew her story too. They had to have known her story.
right.
Right.
You know.
And so for her to run into the city at that point, I would say filled with a righteousness about her, y'all have to come see this man who told me everything I've done wrong.
Right.
And of course, y'all know everything I've done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from out of town.
Yeah. I've never seen this guy.
Yeah.
And
Not
so,
only is he from out of town, he's from a different country.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's what I think of, and when I read that part.
I'll be honest, I think of my own struggle in life because I've always been curious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I've always grown in my faith because of those things that I wanted to figure out. Right. So it was that hunger and knowledge of trying to understand what all of these people were telling me. And I found out when I asked them deeper questions that these people that I thought knew everything really didn't know anything.
Well, and that's like Shane said.
Right.
His past with them, the church. What kind of threw him off with it was he would ask these people who are supposed to know questions and would get nothing.
Right. My and I don't know if I've talked about it here on the podcast or not, but I know I've talked about it with some other people. My problem was is I was getting to the point to where I was getting angry about it. And they were telling me just essentially to sit down and shut up. And I'm going, no, I don't think that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trying to understand this.
Right.
Well, but you're too little to understand this. Pat me on the head. Placate me, and that would just drive me up the wall. Whether I could or couldn't understand it was beside the point. I was
trying to learn.
I wanted to know the justification for it. And there again, the more they pushed at me, the more I wanted to understand, because that couldn't be the answer. It can't be the answer just because. Because I say so. Well, there's got to be something else underlying that. So now I don't know that by any stretch of the imagination I'm righteous, in the sense that my knowledge has something that I did made me righteous, right? I mean, I think the atonement made me righteous, right?
It was imputed to
Yeah,
you.
it was imputed to me through the atonement.
You listened this morning.
I think hunger and thirst meant the search for righteousness.
Right.
It's not that we are.
Right.
It's just that
Well, but
we're
I was
looking
trying to,
for it
I
and
was trying to make
be.
sure that we were clarifying
Yeah.
that just because I've done a bunch of research that I think that I'm a righteous, outstanding human
But-
being.
And I just have to say, I agree with you. I think it was totally out of line when Eddie patted you on the head today. I didn't find it funny at all.
I have a prerogative.
All right, we
I
better
am
keep
pretty-
cruising, or we're not going to make it through the ones.
I imputed
Well, let's make this the
his,
second and third episode.
his knowledge. All right.
No, wait. I'm sorry. Back to the Old Testament.
Actually, I'm going to Romans.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I know, surprisingly, I understand that.
Right.
I know something about that too, a little bit. But to me, this was about: are you seeking God's righteousness or your own righteousness?
Mhm.
Right.
And that's where the division was. Pharisaical things, righteous according because you can do it on your own and make it.
Right.
When we all know that it wasn't going to happen. But if you turn over here, a little book called Romans, if y'all heard of that one,
Mhm.
first 3 verses, 4 verses, and it goes, brothers, my heart's desire and prayer to God is for them that they may be saved. For I bear them witness that they have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge.
Right.
For being ignorant of the righteousness of God, where am I? And seeking to establish their own, they did not submit to God's righteousness. And so there's humility and humbleness in there
Right.
about that. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes.
Right.
Not everyone who does this stuff, but they believe.
Right.
So, and I know certainly the thief on the cross, when he wanted to believe, he wasn't asked the question, do you know the doctrine of justification by faith alone?
Right.
He'd had to say, never heard of it. And
Huh?
But the guy on the middle cross said I could go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believed.
Yeah.
And but he did not have his own righteousness. He at that
No.
point. Certainly
No,
not.
and there again, I just wanted to make
Mhm.
it clear that I don't believe that I gained righteousness through knowledge. I gained it through Christ. But my hunger and thirst for that righteousness, I believe, is what drew me closer and closer, and still draws me closer and closer to God.
And God uses that in you, and that gift that you have, God
Right.
uses it. And so we benefit from it too.
No, it's just the satisfaction stuff that I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I'm. No, just kidding.
We get some of the shade from that. I mean, we catch some of that, and so it's good. And I think about those days we were able to spend sitting on that bench in Albania this past September, and we were sharing about the things you mentioned some of those things in your life. Well, that blessed my heart just because we got to know each other better, but still that God would use guys like us.
Sure.
So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. All right. Number 7.
Yeah. Moving
Verse
right
7.
along.
Verse 7, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Explain that one, Lucy. Explain it to me. Because if you're merciful, how do you receive the mercy? I mean,
On something else.
Right.
It's just like forgiveness.
Right.
If you want to be forgiven, you've got to forgive. If you want to receive mercy, then
gotta
when you've
give
got the
mercy.
opportunity to give mercy, then you've got to give mercy.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There
So
we
it's
go.
it's a push pull situation, right? You got to
Gotcha,
give to get.
I think that nailed it
Yep.
right there.
Okay. Yeah, I've read that one, and it didn't click.
Well, and there again, it's not talking, it's not talking about being a wimp, and you'll get mercy. That's not what it's saying, right?
No.
It's like the meekness, right?
Mhm.
Mercy. Somebody who's merciful doesn't have to be, weak and puny and right.
Right.
I mean, we can all be merciful, right? So
I've met some people that I'm glad that they were merciful.
amen.
So,
but there again,
And
I
that's
believe you got to give to get.
I think a lot of people, don't fully understand the definition of mercy and grace.
Right.
mhm.
Right.
And the best way I've ever heard it, it was in a meme of all things, but I mean, it really just kind of, I sit there and thought about it for a while and was like, wow, that really does kind of put it in perspective. And it was mercy's not getting what you deserve. Grace is getting what you don't deserve.
Mhm.
And when you think about it in that aspect, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
you had it coming, but they showed mercy and didn't give it to you. That's
So, do you want justice or mercy? They say the same kind of concept.
exactly.
I want mercy.
Yeah. Now, number 8 to me is a harder one because pure in heart. I'd love to say, oh yeah, I'm in that category.
That's me.
I don't know about that one.
That's me.
Pure in heart.
So what you're saying is verse 8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Is Jesus talking about himself?
I don't know if that's one of those things where he's kind of broad stroking it and saying, you're never going to obtain it, but if you try, you're gonna get mercy and get counted as okay, good enough, in the end, because you truly tried.
Right.
And I think that's it. It's pure in heart, and Jesus knows a man's heart, truly knows it. So
well, I think that goes back to as well what you said. If you lust after someone, in your heart you've committed adultery. The same way, if you hate someone, you've committed murder. That I can see as part of that.
right, but does that negate number 8 completely? Because I don't know. There's enough paper to check all the boxes for those two you just listed.
Right.
I mean,
Well, there again, I think I always looked at the Beatitudes as an outline. He's kind of given us an outline for the rest of the teachings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the pure of heart thing, seek ye first the kingdom of God, right? So I think it's things like that this pure of heart is. What are the things, there again, the heart to the people that he was talking to was the thing that made you, right? They kind of had the heart and the brain. They didn't understand that the brain really is the control center, so they were looking at the heart. So the purer that you can be as a person, right, the closer you're going to get to God, right? Now, there's some things about that I don't necessarily agree with even saying that I've said, but right. So the heart is the center of the human, right? Not the brain.
I believe, yes.
Right.
And I wonder too if this is not referring to this. How does God see us in the end when we stand justified and redeemed and atoned and all that, adopted, all that good stuff? We stand. How does God see us? According to 2 Corinthians 5:21. He sees the righteousness of God.
Right. Right.
Blessed are the pure in hearts, because we know that our heart is wicked beyond measure. I can't remember the Old Testament one on that one, but
Yeah.
but does he see my heart is pure?
Right.
Not my purity, but the purity of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I still work on it because
I don't.
you know,
Yeah.
our
There's
faith,
no perfect.
our
There's
faith generates it in our, as we work through sanctification.
right. There was no perfect human prior to Christ, and there's no perfect human after Christ. So, the pure there is what's always hung me up. I mean, I'll agree. It seems that seems to be the wrong word there.
I
But
don't know. Like I say, if it's just a
would have to-
broad overview of,
right there again,
he sees your heart,
have
he
to
knows
say
that even
it's-
though you did that sin, you immediately regretted it. You know, he knows what's really there, that you were
Right.
fighting the entire time from the moment you acknowledged Christ as your Savior. It was a fight to try not to slip off the road,
Right.
no matter how many times you did,
Right.
how many times you totaled the car. You know,
Well, there,
he knew pure in heart you wanted
right.
to be perfect in his eyes, even though you couldn't be.
Well, I like your. This has to be a big, broad paintbrush statement. So, I kind of like that.
Okay.
Number 9.
We're just going, man.
Yeah, no. So
You thought this
as
would be
some I
hard.
said, I'm in last I'm in week. I think I'm in verse 9 of I'm in Beatitudes is probably the one that stands out to me the most. I look at it from, I guess, a different perspective. But it says, "Blessed are the peacekeepers, for they shall be called sons of God." And it's that word peacekeepers. You know, I look at that, and the first thought that comes to my head for the definition of that word is our military and our first responders. It's those who have the heart to help improve, provide, and protect. That is immediately where my brain goes on
Well,
that.
RSV uses the word peacemakers, and
What they-
That's what
not to
Or
belittle,
peacemaker, yeah.
not to belittle. Well, I think there are some versions that say peacekeeper, but and I don't want to take away from what you said, but I mean,
No.
just boiling it all the way down, I think that to the simplest form, it's the people that don't go around gossip and try and stir up something. That's a peacemaker, you know, that sees an opportunity to, you know, quell a fight between mother and daughter, or a father and a son, you know, and bring them back together and stop it from becoming something that qualifies as a peacemaker. Anyway, just something that simple to me was.
Well, yeah, I get that.
It wasn't
I mean,
like war. A lot of people go to, you know, oh, he's talking about, you know, these politicians and this and that. I doubt very seriously he is, but
right. But
you know.
but yeah, I mean, it's that person that comes to you and starts to gossip, and you go, I don't want to hear it.
Or better yet, you
need to go talk to that
try to
person.
fix the situation, right?
So yeah, a peacemaker. Sorry, I misread that. It's
No, that's
peacemaker, not peacekeeper.
Well,
but,
like I say, I do think there are
but
versions
I
that
think
use
you're right. I think some of them do say peacekeeper.
You know, if you don't mind, jump to the last two, just because with what's currently going on. So out of all of them, these two hit home.
Well, read them both, Shane, and just knock them out.
Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men revile and persecute you, utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so men persecuted the prophets who were before you. And all I can think of is Nigeria. You know, I've always thought, Tim's mentioned it numerous times, of, you know, we don't really have those type of trials. We're not under the sword for our religious beliefs.
Literally.
You know, the most we get is a snide comment on social media. Whoop-de-doo, you know, put a Band-Aid on it and go outside, whatever. But, I mean, these people are literally dying for their beliefs, and all I can think is, I don't want to have to find out, but, you know, if you're sitting there with a gun to your head or a gun to your daughter or your wife's head, because you know they did that, you know they took their children and killed them first to try to make them denounce their faith, and just sitting there thinking, I hope they held it to the end. I hope they were like the prophets, the apostles, you know, and were skinned or boiled or crucified or whatever, and, you know, like Stephen, forgive them for what they do, you know. I mean, that one hit home just because those poor people are, I mean, they're living the Bible, living it actively, and I just hope for their sakes that they were able to hold all the way to the end, and because this says their reward is great in heaven right now, so none of that matters anymore. They're with their families and they're good to go.
You know, I read those and I think about that, and because I read through this real quick during Sunday school this morning. I answered your questions.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
I
did.
was halfway multitasking.
Julie leads over and goes, does he always do history lessons? I said, like, don't say stuff like that and make me burst out laughing in the middle of Sunday school.
Yeah, actually, that was a pretty good
always
history lesson this morning.
But it was apropos with Oliver Cromwell and John Owen.
But I was looking at that and I was thinking, like, coming you know, you look at Nigeria and you just think of the way all that's moved to where it's now in Nigeria, and where's it moving next? And I questioned if that got here and it got to me and my wife and my boys, and they have me on my knees with my boys in front of me.
And you have confidence that you could save their lives.
Do I have the confidence knowing and say, I follow Christ and Christ alone, knowing what's about to happen?
That's a tough thing to have to think about.
I mean, and like you said, knowing what was about to happen, I hope they had the strength and the faith to hold out because of what is coming in glory. Because thinking about that and the way you put it and the way it states it makes me believe that it says, because your reward is great in heaven, that their reward essentially would be greater than someone who just lived a life and died of old age. Because they stood to the sword.
Well, I think there again, you have to look at the culture and the fact that in the verse before these two verses, he's talking about the peacekeepers. So it seems I don't believe in coincidences. So it seems like that there's a flow here in Christ's thinking, right? That we're talking about peacekeepers, peacemakers, people who are not necessarily, weenie sitting in the corner, crying, at everything that happens to them kind of thing that we generally think of.
Well, when
Right,
you look
so
at the
we're talking-
progression of the whole thing, it steadily progresses
it
up.
builds to this. It builds
Yeah.
to this little climax that we have here. So why are we building to this climax, right? So the people in Judea felt that they were being persecuted.
Mm-hmm.
That the Romans, had the boot on their throat, figuratively, right? And that there was a bunch of bad things and they couldn't do what they wanted to do because Rome wouldn't let them do what they wanted to do. So they felt like that they were being persecuted.
Well, Jesus knew who Paul was and knew what he was going to do shortly right after this.
Right. So I think that there again, it was Jesus saying, be patient with the system here. We don't want you. You shouldn't be stirring up trouble. You shouldn't be going out there and ambushing a Roman patrol just because you can.
Right.
Let's do this. And he's saying that this is going to have a payoff. I hate using that word, but it's going to have a payoff in the end,
Yeah.
right? Because you're not. I mean, you think about somebody that's gone to war and that's taken lives and things like that. I mean, to me, could I know mentally I'm prepared if somebody breaks into my house, they're leaving in a body bag.
Right.
I mean, no questions asked. Now, what would I be like on the other side of that, right? Taking a human life. Would that be something that I could even live with myself with, So there again, I think that Jesus is cautioning these people that he's talking to and going, let's be meek, let's be humble, let's remember that God's got a bigger plan and purpose, and that bigger plan and purpose is more gooder than whatever you're going to get if the Romans get their foot off your neck anyway, right? So I like the last three verses here of the Beatitudes, because they do kind of culminate to me to what ought to be our attitudes, right? That we ought to not worry about the nitpicky things in the bigger scheme of things that go on in our lives. Just because we feel like we're persecuted, that's not the end all be all, right? Depending upon how you are on your end time hell, permanent torment, or that thing. Okay, well, eternity with God is a lot better outcome than suffering a little bit under the Roman boot.
Yeah.
Well, I agree, but I think persecution has a different meaning in other parts of the world than it does here.
Oh, well,
yeah, for sure.
I 100% agree.
I
with
agree.
you.
I can guarantee you, if any one of those Nigerians were here, persecution to them is quite a different conversation than what we consider persecution.
I agree,
somebody
but,
going, "Oh, you're one of those Bible thumpers,"
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I agree
Right.
that there's a different perspective on that, but and I think that he's foreshadowing some things in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, he's telling generations that aren't sitting there on the hill with him. He's telling Justin. He's telling Polycarp. He's telling the people that we know that died a horrible death. James. Somebody that was probably well, not somebody that was probably listening to him, but somebody that heard this story that, his half brother is going to be thrown off the temple wall.
Yeah.
Okay, well, bad things are going to happen to you because you believe in me, but there's a better.
Mm-hmm.
That this life is temporary and non-permanent.
And and they will hate and persecute you because they hated and persecuted me.
And we can also rest in this, I think. And all this, it's hard to do. So we work through it, and we depend
Do
on
the
God.
best we can.
But in the end, Jesus says, "My peace I leave with you, not as the world gives you peace, but as I give it. It's
Right.
I leave that peace with you." And for me, the focus here is on our relationship with God, and and I like the fact that we can draw things from this that are truly there as we exegete and look at this stuff. But at the same time, the end game is always there. And it's always our relationship with Christ. And it's always that reward that we will stand before our Creator one day and bathed and clothed in the righteousness of Christ.
Praise. That's right.
Yep. Well, guys,
Next week it'll be salt and light.
next week, I don't know if it's just salt and light or if we do the fulfillment
None of the law.
of the law as well, but we will start with salt and light. So, guys, I want to thank them and y'all for being here. If you got this far, y'all will see this the second week of the new year. And like I said last week, I hope y'all had a Merry Christmas. I hope y'all did have a Merry Christmas.
We did.
You got some time with the grandkids.
We did.
Did you get time with your grandkids?
A few of them.
A
A
few
few
of
more. A few more than I have, with me currently. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna get to see a few more next weekend. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
I think I'm gonna have Christmas all the way up to Valentine's Day. But yeah,
Our Christmases are done.
Yeah.
And I actually don't have to take our lights off the house this year.
That's right.
I bit the bullet because we had to buy new lights for the house this year anyway, and we invested in 150 feet of those permanent lights that have all the preset light settings.
You can do that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I put them in when Larry found out I had them, and he put them in. They're popular. You can change them for.
Color?
I change the colors for Easter. They'll go purple and green. For New Year's, I've got a star fireworks setting that I'll put on them, so they'll sit there and flash and do fireworks scenes.
Mine has settings for Valentine's Day, for Easter, for Mother's Day, for Father's Day. There's 3 choices for Halloween. There's a Flag Day setting, a President's Day setting.
There's nobody in my neighborhood that has that.
Be the first. Set the trend.
I
Cheap
call
enough now. Cheap.
I call these things first world problems that we have to worry about.
Yeah.
But I don't have to take down Christmas lights this year. I just changed the color on them and on my phone.
That's right.
So, all right, guys. Well, thank y'all for being here. And for those of you who have watched, I appreciate y'all's time as well. We will step into more of the Sermon on the Mount next week. We'll see y'all then.